find a couple places tonight. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 10. And let's look at one verse in this chapter. Verse 12. And now, Israel, what doth the Lord thy God require of thee, but to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul. Proverbs 23. In verse 26. My son, says Solomon, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. Let me talk to you a little bit tonight about the key to giving. The key to giving. I'm sure you know this, but if you don't, it's okay. No man knows by what he has received. No man is known by what he receives, but by what he gives. Numbers chapter 7 is the second largest chapter in the Bible with nearly 2,000 words, 89 verses. And it's all about giving. It's all about giving. A man by the name of Bruce Baxter is quoted to have said, "Do we give according to our means or according to our meanness?" Now, you may think that's a cute little quote, but I can tell you people get mad when the thought's brought up about giving to the church. Now, they give it for the fund drive, and they give at the store and they give at the gas station, but they get upset when they have to give at church. Another man said this, "He who gives what he is asked has waited too late." He who gives when he is asked has waited too late. John D. Rockefeller Jr. once said this, "Giving is the secret of a healthy life. Not necessarily money, but whatever a man has of encouragement and sympathy and understanding." So when you talk about giving, people automatically get the grand old dollar bill in hand and think that you're talking about giving. But there's a whole lot more to giving than money. If you can get the other part right, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul. If you can get that part right, the giving part of money won't be a problem. What most people never get right is to never get right the giving from the heart. They think giving is a billfold situation. Now that's just where the money's at. The act of giving comes from the heart. We'll see that. We are to give as we would like to get. 2 Corinthians 9. We are to give like we like to get. Getting is an important action. Chapter 9, 2 Corinthians, verse 6. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. You reap only what you've sown. That is a natural law. It has to do with your garden, and it has to do with your life. And you can sow more than money. Wouldn't you like to be known as somebody who's kind? Wouldn't you like to know that you're somebody who's benevolent? You know this, but turn to Luke 6. Not telling you anything you don't know. I don't know how I could anyways, but Luke 6 and verse 38. Give, and it shall be given unto you. People say, well, I knew that, but do you practice it? You can know a lot of things, but the only way you get good with it is to practice. You can know how to shoot a gun, but if you want to be accurate, you need practice. Amen? Giving takes practice. That's why it's good to start out when you're a child. Giving. You learn to give when you're young, giving when you're older, it won't hurt so bad. Have you ever come out of the store and said this? Boy, my billfold's lighter than when I went in. You probably didn't, but it was. But the only time that people seem to feel that emptiness is when they're at church. Amen. Huh? Does it sound strange? But is it true? You give, and according to what I read here in verse 38, give and it shall be given unto you. I see if you give, then it'll be given. It's a principle. People who say, well, I didn't get much out of church. What did you put into it? I heard Brother Wayne Munn tonight was coming to church, and he was reading a verse. I can't tell you where it was, but the word amen occurred in it. He said, isn't it interesting? That's a word that should be at church, but it never gets pronounced at church. And I'm not saying that everybody, but it doesn't. But if you don't give, you don't get. All right, let's go on here. It shall be given unto you good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give unto your bosom. So I take it here the principle, however this works. You give, but when you get back, you get a good measure, but it's pressed down, shaken together, and running over. In other words, I'm saying that you're getting a little bit more than you put in. Now, anybody that's planted a garden knows that truth. You put one seed of corn in, and you get a whole bunch of seeds of corn. You put one potato in, a hill, or a half a potato, or 2 potatoes, and you get a whole lot more. Why? It's a principle. And we go to 1 Corinthians 15, look at, but I don't want to take the time to do that. It's a principle of giving. You get back, and most of the time you get back more than you gave. I can testify to the fact that there's 49 years of being here, I've gotten a whole lot more given to me than I gave out. Why? It's a principle, folks. It shouldn't be that hard to understand, but why is it that we have such a hard time understanding giving? See, right there is one of those where amen would have been appropriate. So he says, for with the same measure that you might, wherewithal, it shall be measured to you again. So this is the principle. You can't not give and not get. Why? It's the law. And that doesn't mean that if I give $10, the Lord's going to give me $10 back. He might give me something else. He might give me the blessing. There's a couple, I don't think they visited here to church. Did they? They just come to our house from Maryland. I can't think of their names right now.
I think they came a year ago.
A year ago they came to church, did they? Okay. Then they came down again this year to see me. Say, why they come to see you? They like my devotions and the Baptist bread. To me, that's worth the time it takes to write it, just to have somebody say they enjoyed it. It's worth writing for. I don't have to have that. Nobody has to tell me they appreciate it. I mean, I like doing it, whether anybody appreciates it or not. But to get that back, that to me is I sowed and I reaped more than I asked for. It's a principle. You can't go wrong giving because you're going to get. And if you didn't, one place where he talks about how much is laid up for you above. So Whether you get down here or not is immaterial to the fact you're going to get it. You're going to get it whether it's in heaven when you get it or whether it's here. God doesn't give you so he can see how much you will return. He already knows how stingy we are. Never mind. Wouldn't make any sense with it. 1 Corinthians. I just thought I'd do something on giving tonight. Help you out. Amen? I've never known a giver to complain that he's not getting. But I know a lot of people that don't give that complain because they don't get. 1 Corinthians 16, verse 1. Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the churches of Galatia, even so do ye. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay it by him in store, as God hath prospered him, that there be no gathering when I come. And when I come, whatsoever you shall prove by your letters, them will I send to bring your liberality into Jerusalem. And if it be meet that I also go, they shall go with me. Say, what's this? This is laying in store to be a blessing to somebody. Over the years, can't tell you, Brother Gordy, you probably could remember how many times you've got a blank envelope with somebody's name on it, want so-and-so to have this. Somebody in the church felt somebody needed a blessing, and they gave them to them. It's not difficult, it's simple. I shouldn't have to even say anything, but it's that simplicity sometimes that messes us up. I've had people say, well, what do I get out of it? Well, if that's the attitude you have, you probably shouldn't give it, because you won't recognize the blessing when it comes. There's a purpose for giving here. These folks laid it up in store until time comes to do it. So Paul said, when I come, I'll pick up that which you've laid aside. I know a lot of people have used this to talk about tithing, but I don't think it's talking about tithing. I think it's talking about giving and laying aside in store. We have a benevolence fund here. What's that for? That's to help somebody out who has a need. What does James tell us about a brother who we see in need? Giving is a part of your life as a Christian. I don't know. I've never been there, so I can't say that I know. Maybe you've been there. I've never been to a point where I had to learn to give. It started when I was young. And we tried to teach that principle to our children by giving to missionaries. If it's a quarter, it's a quarter. It's not how much, it's the attitude of doing it from the heart. My uncle had a youth camp for about, 30 years, whatever it was, 40 years. And I said to him one day, I said, Uncle Charles, surely you must have had a millionaire help you out on this, because it was quite a project. He said, no, Paul said, the truth of it is, he said, children and widows gave the money to build these camps. You think you need a millionaire? You don't need a millionaire. Well, let me put it this way. You know one, don't you? I know a millionaire. Billionaire, trillionaire. He said he owns it all. Amen. What are you waiting for some earthly person to do something when you got somebody in heaven already knows your need and already taking care of the supply? I think that you and I are nothing more than boys that carry the mail. I think God gives a blessing, we distribute it. I think that's the way it goes. Amen. I want God to see from my heart what I intend to do, not from my fist to what I've got to do. I think there's probably children that have given a quarter or a dime or a nickel to help a building fund, and nobody knew that they did that. And the Lord blessed that. What do you say about that woman that was given, that widow? She's given more than all these because she gave of her living. And with that verse, I can say this. I think I'm safe to say it. People said, well, do I have to give my grocery money? I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying the principle is there. That woman gave of her living. That was money that she would eat on. That was money that she'd pay her electric bill if they had electricity then. You see, it's not, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible, but the Lord's already made it simple. It's not that difficult. We make it difficult by saying, well, do I have to? No. Do I have to already qualifies you for you're not going to do it right. Amen. People say, I can't afford to tithe. Can I tell you this much? You can't afford not to tithe. You can't afford not to give. Why? Because it's the principle. Look at Proverbs 22. Proverbs 22. Verse 9. He that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed. Would somebody like to tell me what that verse means? Or would you say it means what it says? He that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed. Then it says this, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. Now, what's he saying? It was his food to eat, but he gave it to the poor instead of him eating it. Isn't that giving of your living? You give your soup to somebody because they look like they need it worse than you do? It's a simple principle. Most Christians never get it because we're too worried about what we don't have. I got a garage full of stuff and a shed full of stuff. I don't have any more room to pack anything in. And you're just like me. You do too. But we need that. Whatever it is, we need it. The bountiful eye is blessed because he gives when he has it and sees that there is a need. 2 Corinthians. Go to verse 9. We talked about verse 6. Let's look at verse 7. Every man. Okay, stop. How many men? How many men? Y'all have a Bible? You got it open? Chapter 9. I didn't say chapter 9? I think you're wrong, but I'll ask God when I get to heaven. This is what you got to face, brother, so just get... Yeah. Chapter 9, verse 7. Every man. So who? Does that leave any of us out? If you need some help, the New King James Version has taken out 19,575 words. The NIV has added 90,000 in the last. So if you need some help, go to one of those two versions. They can give you what every man means. But if you just take your old King James for what it says every man, which means... I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to get you to understand that nobody's left out. People will say, well, what do you need more money for? You got lots of money. Is that how that works? Is that how that works? The church has a lot of money, so you don't have to give any? There's a verse for that, is there? I wish somebody would please show it to me. Follow me. Every man, according as he is purposed where? He doesn't take his billfold out and count what's in it and say, well, okay, I can give $1. He does it from his heart, which makes him do what he ought to do. Amen. Let him give, not grudgingly. Or these next three words are killer. Or of necessity. Well, I have to do this. The preacher said we should tithe, so I guess I'll put it in. Keep it. Scrooge. Why? God doesn't want your grudge money. He doesn't want your necessity money. He wants you to give from your heart. If you give from your heart, you'll give the right amount. Say, what's the right amount? I don't know. That's every man's purpose in his heart. That's your business, not mine. If you want to know the truth, this goes beyond tithing. This isn't tithing. This is giving. Tithing is something that we do because it's a principle laid out for us in the Bible. People say, well, not in the New Testament. We don't have time for that, but you're wrong. Giving is a principle we learn as we grow older. That's what Faith Promise is about, giving. It's not about how much. It's about giving. Yeah, I figure this much in any church in America, especially in a Bible-believing church, in any Bible-believing church in America, the church should be able to take care of itself if the people would just do what they should do. Amen. It's a principle. So he doesn't give grudgingly nor necessity. And then it says this, for God loveth a what? So you can't fool God. You might fool me when you're going, here's my offering. But God's looking at your heart. But you ought to be glad you can give it. You know, God could make you poor. You say, well, I am poor. No, you're not. Not according to the rest of the world. I saw a report today on Gaza and people starving to death. They can't get any food. You did pretty good tonight at supper, I bet you. I bet you didn't go away from the table hungry. One woman said she took a bowl about that deep to get food in it. She come back empty. I've never sat down at the dinner table and got up and went, I'm starving. I've got up and saying, I wish I were starving. As he purposes in his heart, let's play a little bit on words here. Is there a purpose to your giving? When I give because I want to see my church grow. I want to see it be able to do what it has to do. I give with a purpose. That's what you ought to be. When you give to missions or when you give in the offering plate, the general offering, when you give because you want to see something take place. You want to see something happen. That's a purpose. Get a purpose to your giving. To grudge means to envy and resent because of someone's possessions. In other words, wonder how much they gave. What difference does it make how much somebody gave? What's that to you? You say, well, they got more money than we do. What does that have to do with the giving? It's not how much, it's the purpose. I've heard some people say they could give $20 and it wouldn't hurt. Where he gives $20, it hurts. Well, it's not about the hurting. It's about the purpose in your heart. Your purpose is what you're going to do. That's why you don't have a verse in the Bible in the New Testament per se that says, give of your tithe or else. But you think some people give with that kind of a mentality. If I don't give, something bad's going to happen. No, where did you find that at? You reap what you sow. If you sow so much, you're going to get so much back. It's a principle. Physical compulsion placed upon one by the pressures around him is what necessity amounts to. Man-made circumstances, habits, customs. Well, I've always done it this way. Necessity. I'm not going to turn there, but John 3:16. Doesn't this give us a picture of the right spirit or attitude for giving, For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. If there's a principle there, if you love the Lord's work, you love the church, you love the brethren, then you ought to give in that manner. Quiet in here. I don't know why it should be. Let's go back to our text verse of Proverbs 23. Okay, verse 26, I think was our verse, wasn't it? My son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways. Well, there's a sermon in the last part of that verse, but I'm not going to do it. Look at Proverbs 4:23. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. A husband, a father, a wife, a mother, a child, a student, and so on as the list goes, will never give properly until they give their heart. Perhaps this is what's wrong with many of a person, many a marriage, many a home, many a family, many a church, many of a community, and the list goes on. If they never gave with their heart, all the giving they do is done with the wrong motive. It boils down to a motive for giving. What is your motive for giving? I have to, or this is what we do, or this is what I want to do. That's what the Lord's laid on me to do. Amen? Go home and think on it. Lord, thank you for the opportunity we had to be here. Bless the next session here tonight. You know what needs to be done. I ask in Jesus' name.